Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. It is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. This is Iconic Masters release weekend, and as you can imagine, there's some ripples going through the market, but I think we're going to see some bigger impacts over the course of the next week or two that really haven't unfolded yet, so we'll kind of see where things go with this. But I do want to warn you, this particular video, we're not going to talk about any Iconic Masters specific singles. We did that in Thursday's video, and we are going to check back in with just Iconic Masters in a special edition of the Market Watch later this week. So stay tuned for that. Right now, they're just too turbulent to work into the regular countdown list. They would kind of dominate a lot of things and not necessarily be entirely accurate. With that being said, before we get started though, just a really fast reminder, if you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to help support what we do here. Our Patreon page is linked below. You'll also find some products on Amazon linked there if you make any purchases. Via those links, we get a small percentage. And finally, Flipside Gaming. Of course, they are doing orders for Iconic Masters among a lot of other stuff right now. So check them out. There's a promo code for our viewers. Hopefully you can save some cash. With that being said, let's get into it. We're going to start off, as we always do, with Standard and top 5 cards that have lost value this week. So as you can imagine, Standard's a little bit slow right now. The meta game is just kind of moving along, and we're already starting to approach the next big change with Rivals of Ixalan. So there's a lot of people a little hesitant to invest into some decks or some big cards right now, so things are slowing down a little bit. Number 5, Carnage Tyrant, down 92 cents to $17. This card's interesting because you would expect it to fall faster, quite honestly. I mean, it's lost a lot of value from the like $30 it was at when Ixalan came out, but obviously the dinosaur deck didn't quite get there. Now, the reason people aren't just liquidating this card is simply because they have hopes for the dinosaur deck with Rivals coming out, and rightfully so. I mean, it has a chance with more cards. I mean, it got pretty close to begin with, so people aren't ready to sell this off yet. It's also a good commander card, and it has shown up kind of here and there in just random places. Number 4, the Scarab God, down $1.37 this week to $42.51, so this continues its slow decline, which isn't too surprising considering as people kind of get their decks together. There's a lot of copies of this card out there, so it's going to just slowly decline in value as time goes on. With that being said, though, the card does not have any issue seeing play in Standard. It's definitely everywhere, basically, it feels like. A big part, of course, of the energy decks and sometimes control decks among some other places. So Scarab God's very healthy when it comes to playability, but do expect it to continue to decline, at least slowly. Number 3, Chandra Torch of Defiance, down $1.63 to $35.54. Very similar in some ways to the Scarab God. Great card, sees a lot of play. We see this in energy decks. We see this in Ramanap Red. We see this in vehicles. So almost, again, everywhere you turn, Chandra is showing up. But another thing I will say about Chandra that she has over the Scarab God right now is she's also seeing Modern and Legacy play. Sometimes Big Red and Legacy. Over in the world of Modern, she'll show up in like some Panza decks, as well as even some Jund decks here and there too. So she's around in more places than just Standard, which is good for her long-term health. But again, a lot of packs of Kaladesh have been opened. She'll continue to creep down in price. Number 2, Gideon of the Trials, down $1.84 to $14.50. Gideon falling pretty hard, even though Gideon is seeing some play. Usually control decks, maybe sometimes even a Death and Taxes deck in Modern or a control build in Modern. So Gideon is out there, but just not in the quantities that really warrant this kind of price point, and that's why it's been falling. This card was heavily inflated coming out of the release of Ixalan because a lot of people thought with the Planeswalker rule, maybe they could get a Gideon tribal deck going. That didn't really happen, so the price point was really fixed on that deck being a thing, and that's why you're seeing a drop now. Even though the card sees play, I feel like a more fair price for this card would be around the $10, $9 mark. That's probably where it will get sooner or later. Number 1, Vraska Relic Seeker, down $1.91 to $20.65, kind of the darling of the Pro Tour. We saw a nice spike coming out of that event, and yeah, it's snapping back a little bit now, so not too surprising. Still a great card, still seeing a lot of play, and that's not going to change. Alright, so what's going up in value this week? Now you're going to notice the increases are very conservative this week. In fact, the biggest mover is still under $1. Number 5, Glint Sleeve Siphoner is up 16 cents this week to $3.18. This card is just a solid workhorse card. I mean, especially in this current meta with the energy decks, it has done a lot of good work out there. Number 4, Angel of Sanctions, up 18 cents to $2.99. This is a card that sees play, of course, in Godfarrow's gift decks, and still very affordable at just the $3 mark. You can probably actually find this a little cheaper, too, if you look. Number 3, Hezret the Fervent, up 52 cents to 1983. So Hezret, even though some of the other big cards have been declining, she's going up just a tad bit, not a whole lot, but a card that sees play, of course, in Ramanap Red and the Vehicles decks. Number 2, Nissa Stewart of Elements, up 62 cents to 839. Another card that had a good showing at the Pro Tour. This looked good coming out of sideboards of energy decks, and because of that, it saw a nice little spike over the last few weeks. The momentum is slowing a little bit now. I'd expect this card to stabilize, maybe even decline by next week. And number 1 is Angel of Invention, up 99 cents to 1204. So like I said, very conservative, not even $1 technically, but the card is still a good card, especially Friday Night Magic. You're going to see this show up a lot because it's a key part of not only the God Pharaoh gift decks, which are popular, but also to the mono white vampire decks, which looked good at the Pro Tour. All made it to day 2, even though none of them top 8'd. All right, let's move on to the world of Modern. So Modern's interesting right now. Again, it's a little bit slow. I think people are hesitating to see what's going to go on here. Now, one thing I will point out, Iconic Masters, even though we're going to do a special video on that later in the week, those cards are losing value pretty aggressively right now because it just came out yesterday. So, of course, a lot of packs are being opened. The other thing that's a little unusual, though, I want to point out is this is something Wizards did not announce, or at least I didn't hear it. But these Iconic Masters packs are showing up at big box stores, and that's never happened before. So that inclines me to believe there's a higher print run, maybe a much higher print run of this particular product, which could shake confidence in the singles market. We're going to have to see how that unfolds, but apparently they're selling these in 3-packs, kind of like we saw with Conspiracy last year, stuff like that. So really interesting twist on everything here. But is that affecting the value of some of the original copies? You know, at least at this point, not as much as I would have thought. So let's jump in and see what's going on here. Number 5 on the list is Kozilek Butcher of Truth, down $1.31 to $25.23. This is the Modern Masters 2015 version. This actually spiked a couple weeks ago, more or less catching up to the other version a little bit, and because of that, we're just seeing a snapback here. Number 4, Engineered Explosives. This is the original 5th Dawn version, down $1.34 to $47.70. Still a very good card, but this card has been trending down a little bit, a little less maybe percentage of play than it has seen in the past, could attribute to it. But maybe it gets a reprint in Masters 25, which would be nice. Push this card into a more affordable range. Number 3, Tarmogoyf from Future Sight, down $1.88 to $104.02. Even though this card's down a little bit more this week, it still hasn't broken that $100 threshold. So very interesting. You know, just goes to show you the Future Sight card, even though Tarmogoyf is seeing less play than it used to see. The original version there, I mean, with the unique border, and it's just much harder to find. It's a rarer card. It's holding value actually pretty well, all things considered. Now, it has lost a lot of value, don't get me wrong, but this is the type of card that when it shows up again in another deck is probably going to shoot right back up. So this is one to watch. Number 2, Liliana of the Veil, down $2.10 to $85.48. So she's down actually quite a bit this week. I think this is just normal stabilization, though, for the most part with this card. And number 1, well, finally a card that's in Iconic Masters. It's Horizon Canopy, down $3.61 to $71.24. But I'll tell you, the resiliency of this card, even within the last 24 hours, has actually gone up a little bit in value. So that's kind of crazy to me, considering there's a version out there in a brand new set. Even though it is a technically limited set, it is out there in the rare spot, and this card is still holding around $70. Now, if you shop around, you're going to find people panicking and trying to liquidate. You'll find these for cheaper prices. But I mean, we just saw that Tarmogoyf from Future Sight hold its value pretty well in the face of much cheaper versions of itself. This card will probably be similar in the long run. I mean, again, it's got a unique border. It's a lot harder to find, obviously, than the new card coming out in the market this weekend. So, yeah, there's going to be a contingency of players that are going to want this original version. All right, let's move on to the top 5 modern cards that have gained value this week. Coming in at number 5, good old Scalding Tarn from Zendikar, up $1.92 to $63.86. Key part of mana bases for Modern, Legacy, Vintage, just all over the place. Number 4, Chalice of the Void from Modern Masters, up $1.93 to $78.63. Now, this card actually dipped a little bit recently. It's just bouncing back now. I mean, still a great card for Vintage, Legacy, Modern, sees play in decks, for example, like Eldrazi Tron, which is very popular. So, not surprising to see this go up. Hopefully, we see this show up in Masters 25, though. Number 3, Cavern of Souls. This is the Modern Masters 2017 version this week, up $2.43 to $54.98. The Avacyn Restored version also going up this week, but didn't quite make our list. Just went up a little bit. But overall, this card is another one that's seeing play in a number of decks. But the reason the focused attention is on it recently is because it's part of the Humans deck, which over the last few weeks has been very hot in the world of Modern. A lot of people trying to assemble that deck. Number 2, Dark Confidant from Modern Masters, up 277 to 47.95. This card was losing a fair amount of value, really all the versions maybe except the Ravnica version recently, because Jund was seeing a little bit less play in Modern, although it's surging back a little bit now. But what's saving this card at this point is its inclusion again in the Humans deck. So maybe it's not always a main deck card there, sometimes it's like a couple on the sideboard, but it's enough for this card to stabilize and start going up again, which is not too surprising considering the popularity of the Humans deck and the fact that people can find this at a slightly cheaper rate like they have been over the last couple of months stands to reason some folks want to pick it up. Number 1, Celestial Colonnade, up $3.12 to $42. This is a card that desperately needs a reprint. Big card in Modern and control builds. Azorius control builds, Jeskai control builds. And yeah, this card's not going away for sure. Those decks have been pretty successful recently. Alright, let's move on to the world of Legacy. Well, what lost value this week? Let's find out. With number 5 is Drop of Honey, down 10.25 to 403.79. So this continues to tick down a little bit. We've talked a lot about this card in the past, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But long story short, the card saw a huge increase after it got a tad bit of play out of the sideboard of Lands decks and Legacy. But really, it was more of a focus on the card, probably due to that deck, that really led to the spiking, because the card was really undervalued, quite honestly. So someone picked up on that. It looks like there was a buyout. The card has trended down since then. I mean, it's lost a lot of value since it hit its peak, which is expected considering the buyout situation, but it's never going to go back down to where it was. Number 4, All Hallows Eve, down $13.58 to $160. Interesting that this dips. It's funny that it dips like right after Halloween every year, it seems like, but this is a card that this dip will probably draw attention to it, and we probably will see a spike next week. So keep an eye on this one. It's just a classic card, Christopher Rush art, which looks really awesome. It's a real world reference, and on top of that, it's getting harder and harder to find considering it's a Legends card. Number 3, Force Field from Unlimited, down $20 this week to $199.99. This card has been going up, so it's just stabilizing this week. Number 2, City in a Bottle, down $29.61 this week to $180.38. This card was the target of a buyout. It's been declining pretty steadily as these copies are being reintroduced into the market. And number 1, Jazam Jin, down $39.98 this week to $800. Okay, last week it had a huge spike, and I did say we will see snapback. And yeah, we're seeing some snapback. Maybe not as much as I thought, quite honestly. I would expect this to snap back some more, because even though this is a very classic, very hard to find card at this point, $800 is a lot of growth over the course of like 2 weeks, right? Like this card was around $500-600 pretty consistently before that. $100 to $200 worth of growth is not really realistic to be able to maintain. Although, seriously, this is probably an $800 card, just not today. Like this is an $800 card maybe 6 months, a year from now. So I do think we'll decline. This may have been maybe a little bit of market manipulation that wouldn't surprise me, but we'll kind of see where this card goes over the next week or so. All right, let's move into the cards that have gained value this week. Coming in at number 5 is Bayou, up $31.96 to $302.99. This is the unlimited version. Number 4, Nicol Bolas from Legends, up $31.96 to $149.99. Now, this card actually lost about $30 worth of value in the last 24 hours, so be weary of it a little bit. Maybe it's some market manipulation, maybe it's just a ripple in the market, just what the pricing's doing right now. So be careful. The card itself actually is not on the reserve list, that's worth noting, but it is a classic card. It's getting harder and harder to find. Number 3, Mirror Universe, up $44.99 to $269.94. Now, this card, again, felt undervalued to me when it was below the $200 mark, and it's been going up steadily. This is starting to feel a little more like expected value for the card. Number 2 is Diamond Valley, up $98.91 to $500. This card was a target of a buyout. It went through its whole cycle, it spiked, it went back down, but recently it's been trending up again. Not sure if it's a secondary buyout or perhaps it's just a slowing of the cards being reintroduced into the market recently. We'll have to kind of watch and see what happens with this one, but it is up quite a bit this week. Number 1, the Tabernacle of Pendrell, up $248.93 this week to $1,590. This card for a long time sat comfortably around the $1,200 mark. Recently it's been up. It feels more like this is maybe now a $1,400, perhaps $1,500 card, although that might be a little aggressive. So again, keep an eye on this one. It's a very expensive card, but it is something that because of its price tag, draws more attention to it. It's one of the most sought after card in Legends, which is a set that's getting harder and harder to find. No doubt this card is a $1,500, $1,600 card. Is it truly that today? Maybe, maybe not, but maybe it is this price a year from now or so. All right, let's move on to at least one notable card of the week. It's been hard to find some notable cards the last few weeks. The market has slowed down quite a bit, but there was one I wanted to call to your attention. Island of Wak from Arabian Nights. It's up 22.89 this week to 123.47. I've talked a lot about this card over the last year or so. For a lot of the time, it's been undervalued. It is starting to creep up a little bit. It saw a nice little jump this week. I still think it's undervalued, though, quite honestly, for what the card can do, just even for casual play purposes. Not to mention the fact that it's getting harder and harder to find being from Arabian Nights. So this is one to watch, I think, over the next few weeks. All right, with that being said, that's the market watch for this week. Now, like I said, we will be looking at all the Iconic Masters singles a little bit later in the week in a special edition. And then next Saturday, of course, we'll do our regular episode again. Not to mention, I'm sure we'll have a whole bunch of preview cards like we did last week. Last week was crazy. But until then, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe. Have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.